What are your friends gonna say that you're talking to a Mac OS, uh, to a Mac OS guy? What's your audience gonna think that you're a sellout?
I can write a new note and I actually have to get my Arch box.
So you just start a container that is running Arch. So you're
Yeah.
basically running Arch as a container.
See
Just don't open
here.
that Chrome passwords, that CSV file you have there.
Okay, I'm going to open something up. F4. The other day I had an interview with Link Arsu, and just yesterday that video was released, and it's a really good video, by the way. And yes, I'm shamelessly pointing to that video. I'll leave a link in the description section below. You need to check it out, but just bear with me because I'm revisiting an issue that just kind of occurred to me today to talk about. It brought me back to some of the YouTubers that I watch or have watched in the past. I first started watching Spatry's Cup of Linux 15 years ago. And he's no longer on YouTube. I don't know what he's doing. I hope he's doing well. But I got a lot of information from him, for a few weeks. And then, I kind of migrated to other people. And I eventually landed on DistroTube and Luke Smith and all of their developer hacks that they had. I don't think a Mac user is going to go, oh, hey, I think I want to use Linux now because of what I saw DT do. I just don't. But if you show them and you give them a good reason why they should go over to Linux, I think this is a good conversation. And I think this is why I would like to see more developers actually start talking with Linux developers, right? These Arch Linux rices, they're nice. I have a few myself, and I've gotten a lot of popularity on Unix porn. Yes, I do rice my desktop from time to time. Yes, I do fuss around with my tiling window managers. The only thing that I care about when it comes to a tiling window manager at the end of the day is how it works with a dual monitor setup. I mean, I only use, like at the very most, I use two nodes on a single monitor. That's it. That's all I need. I need like a split screen kind of thing. And I can get that with most conventional desktops, but I also like the panel bar. I also like other things that are related to Linux minimalism. But that doesn't actually encourage anyone to go from a Mac user to a Linux user. But if two devs are having a conversation and they say, hey, I prefer Mac because X, Y, and Z, and I prefer Linux because X, Y, and Z, they walk away with a newfound respect for each other. And this is a thing that has been kind of occurring to me lately. Like when I take a look at like Jorge Castro with uBlue, right? I watch his YouTube videos from time to time, and I have to say that I'm more impressed with what I hear from Jorge Castro than I am ever impressed with DT or some of these other Linux YouTubers. I'm impressed because here's a guy who's working in open source and he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the whole Linux ecosystem. I guess at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to drink the Luke Smith Kool-Aid. I'm not trying to, basically have a 14-year-old laptop and Libre boot it and, see what kind of nonsense I can do with this deprecated laptop. That's not me. But I have adopted some aspects of Linux minimalism, and this is something that is rather interesting to people. And the simple fact of the matter is we need to start talking to more devs, especially reaching out to Mac users. Why? So I think that the majority of people, regardless of their operating system, and I've always believed this, but in this interview, it only cemented this fact, is that we're in like the middle 80% somewhere. And so we care about certain implications when it comes to free and open source software, right? The only reason why we care about open source is because we heard Richard Stallman or we heard Linus Torvalds speak about it, or we use open source software. Those are the only two ways that people generally care about open source. So, on one end, there's a group of people who are trying to remove Richard Stallman. So, they're going to remove the person who makes us care about open source and their implications. And so now people are going to be blind to certain implications, and then those rich billionaires are going to come through the back door and they're going to rob us blind, and they're going to do a lot of things that we didn't sign up for. That's my only concern. No one has been able to really refute what it is that I've been seeing. And in fact, a lot of people have been saying, no, I agree with you. This is a real issue that we need to fight now. And see, this actually transcends the operating system and what platform you use. I mean, there's Windows users that use open source software that probably would care about some of these implications. There is macOS users who would care about these implications. And in fact, talking to Christian, I would venture to bet that he cares about some of these implications. Now, is he going to have this die-hard conviction like I have? That remains to be seen. Now, I've rejected macOS and Macintosh in general on moral grounds. I don't want to do business with them because honestly, it's all about greed today. Just like with Microsoft, just like with Google, just like with all of these billionaire owned social media companies. I think we need to just like separate ourselves from that. But at the same time, we kind of have to live in this world. After that interview, I realized if I was working for a tech company and they said, oh, by the way, you have to use Macintosh, I'd get along just fine. I'd have no problem getting along. Yeah, it would take some getting used to. Yeah, it kind of suck probably for the first couple of weeks or something, but I could get along. And let's not pretend that they don't have better software. They have, all the proprietary software out there. And let's not pretend that, they have a pretty strong ecosystem. They have a lot of really good support and probably a lot of pretty good documentation to do pretty much whatever it is that you'd want to do. But there is some good news with Linux users, and that's what we need to be highlighting, and that is we had 1% of the desktop population a decade ago, and today we have 4%, and within the next 3 years, we're going to have 12 to 15%, and Mac OS is actually decreasing. The number of Mac users are significantly decreasing. And I think that's very concerning to the whole Mac OS ecosystem. It's so concerning, in fact, that they have taken large steps to try to, remedy this. There is no remedy. Especially with projects like uBlue, we're going to take over the world. And mark my words, within 10 years, Windows is going to cease to exist as we know it. So again, I can't overemphasize this enough that there are people who are just preaching to the converted. That's not what I'm doing. I'm reaching out. I'm talking to people. I mean, I would love to talk to a Windows developer and or talk to like a game dev who uses Windows. I love that because I would like to know what's underneath the hood and I would like to get a better idea of why they prefer to use Windows to Linux. I want to know, I want to have that conversation with somebody. I really do. I'm hoping one day I'll be able to have that conversation. But this was a very worthwhile conversation that I hope all of you check out. So, you know the drill. You can watch me eat crow and apologize to OpenSUSE on this next video, or you can binge watch my stuff. Buy me a cup of coffee, buy a brand new t shirt of mine, or just stay cool, everyone. Later days. Ciao.